Okay, sorry about that. What are people saying? Definitely not. Nobody's forcing anything. If you listen to people, they're asking not to. No, I'm sorry, but there's. Wow, are you ever out of touch? Um, there's been nothing that in my lifetime that I've seen more militant, more forceful, more manipulative, and punitively enforced than this ideology. Like, nobody's asking anything. They are demanding. And if you do not adhere to their demands, they will destroy you. They will try and ruin your life. They'll try to get you fired. They'll harass you and stalk you and dox you. Um, some, like in Canada here, we're legislating, like, we're legislating that people pretend reality's not real. Like, this is one of the most totalitarian movements I've ever seen in my life. And for you to say that it's not, nothing's being demanded, like, why do you think women are forced to endure men in their prisons? Did anyone ask the women? Do you think the women are being asked while they're being raped by men in prison if it's okay? Do you think that the women in the women's shelters who've been raped, like the three women who were just raped in a women's shelter by a man pretending to be a woman, did anyone ask those women if it was okay if a man violated the safety of the shelter so that he could grape them? Do you think anyone asked the women? No. You think women are asked, the women who've lost sports opportunities and medals and awards and scholarships? Think anybody asked those women, or the women who got hurt who were competing against these men? Do you think anyone asked the women if it was okay if they lose their medals and scholarships and opportunities and awards to men and got hurt, irreparably damaged by these men in their own sport that should have never even had one man in it? Think anyone asked the women that? Nope. Think anyone's asked women anything? If it's okay to violate our boundaries and our privacy and our dignity and our safety in spaces where we're in states of undress? Do you think anyone asked any fucking woman whether we were okay with that? Nope. There has not been any asking. Why don't you come up and talk to me, Wolf Moon? I'm gonna go swimming soon. Maybe I'm gonna go to the thrift store first, though. If you don't come up right now, I'm going to the thrift store. And I cannot debate while I'm in the thrift store because that would be embarrassing. The issue is when they try to get into spaces not belonging to them. That's one of the many issues. Yeah, well, I hope that you have not hurt your body. I hope you've not put yourself on wrong sex hormones or cut off your breasts or hurt your body in any way. This cult is coming to an end, and you're going to be left like missing body parts and sterilized, and like where the cult has fallen, the cult is like ashes at our feet, and you're just standing there going, oh, fuck. I just fucked my entire endocrine system up. I just fucked my entire body up for this cult, and it's gone. Don't worry, it will be gone. It's going to be one of the biggest embarrassments of our time. And the people who are like standing there irreparably damaged by it are going to have no support from the cult because the cult will be fallen. So, and they don't care anyway. Even if you realize what you've done to yourself was horrible, the cult just kicks you out and just goes, you never were trans and shut up and don't, you're making us look bad. In fact, they attack detransitioners just as much as they attack us because the detransitioners are the ones who are really going to make this cult fall. So they're the most threatening. They'll attack whoever threatens their cult the most, right? And the women who are fighting them, they attack them a lot because the women are the ones hurt the most by this ideology. But the detransitioners are even more of a threat, right? Because they bought into the cult. They were cult members. And when they desist and they leave the cult and they want to point out all the harm that was done to their bodies and to their endocrine systems and into their futures and to their fertility and to their psyches, they are attacked vehemently attacked, viciously. They are viciously attacked by the cult because if anyone's going to stop this ideology, it's the detransitioners. I hope you get all you want, need, and more. You guys support each other. You're like, yes, keep culting, fellow cult member. We love to aid and abet in each other's self harm. Hey, Skyhook, what's your age?
29.
Cool. What would you like to say?
Nah, it's something to this wolf thingy that says, "Okay, boomer." And no, you're not a furry wolf. You are a Therian. It's different.
Oh God, what's the
Yeah, yeah,
difference?
yeah, because the Therians, trans species, and furries are totally different.
Oh
If you watch
God.
South Park, then you know what's a trans species. Therians claim that they are animals, but they're not. And the furries are just people that love the anthropomorphic art of animals. They dress like animals or act like animals at some point, but they don't believe they are actual animals.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's true. And they're also pretty fetishy in the furries. Not always, but it's a pretty fetishy world. Um,
Um, at certain point, yes, it can be a fetish. I'm gonna say it. I like the arts. I like characters that are anthropomorphic, and I like
okay.
some spicy art of it. But I like it in the way of how the artist makes the body structure, the complexity, the use of the color. Right? I go more to the details,
Okay.
not in yeah, not in the oh, I want to see this going to happen with this and that. No, no, no. If that happens, then okay, that's how the artist want to do it. But that I draw the line there. I may save the
Okay.
art just because I like the style they use, and that's it.
Okay. Well, thanks for sharing. I'm here to debate this ideology. I personally think that the whole furry thing is creepy and weird, but I guess yeah. So I think that, but also like I guess you could look at furries kind of like anime, and like not all anime is creepy, obviously, right? So you could probably look at it like that. I don't tend to look at it like that because what I've seen from the furry community has been all fetish, and they appear in the at the pride parades, and they're pretty fetishy and pervy, and I've seen a lot of fetishy pervy stuff come out of them, but I'm willing to be open minded to the fact that it could be more like anime, that there is other aspects to the community that isn't just perv and fetishistic, whatever. But yeah, I'm open to that. But anyway, Marcy, what's your age?
I'm 19.
Oh, you're just a youngin'. And you went to Thailand for them to mutilate you and you're like
I
19?
did.
That's
No, when I
fucking.
was 17, about to turn 18, and I paid for it
Oh, that's
myself.
fucking
Yes.
heartbreaking, dude. That is heartbreaking.
Well, I know to you it seemed heartbreaking, but I'm a lot happier now, and I know that
But
doesn't
dude, you're just
matter.
a kid. You're just a kid. Like you don't know. Like
I'm 19. I'm not a kid anymore, but
19 is a kid. Your prefrontal cortex isn't even sort of developed until 25. And you're
okay.
like you have no clue like what you would have wanted. Like the fact that like if
I
I
actually. Sorry, go ahead.
If I did anything that irreparable at 19, oh my fucking god. I was an idiot when I was 19. And I was also smart. I was a smart kid. I was giving people advice. I was charismatic. I had a good head on my shoulders, but I was also a total idiot because I was 19. Right? So you got to humble a little bit to the fact that 19-year-olds don't know shit. You know what, I didn't even start to know shit until I got closer to 30, like just about life and like who you are and what you want and what's up and what's down. And like it's when you're 19 you're just barely developed like at all. Like it's heartbreaking to me that you did something this horrific to yourself at such a young age. And like I know that you're in the era of this ideology's power, but you have to understand that this ideology is falling swiftly. Like the harm of
I
it.
was a
Uh,
child. Sorry, when I was a child, it was not an ideology. It was actually very
yes, it
taboo.
was.
No, it really
No,
wasn't. It was
you're
not.
19 years
'Cause
old.
I
Okay,
am
so
19
like
years old. It
this.
wasn't. No,
So this
I want to.
started. This
It
started in
started right.
2016. Well,
I'm not saying that
2016
it
was when
didn't.
it was
I'm
full
not saying
blown.
it didn't exist, right? But what I'm saying is, you know how a lot of I'm gonna assume you're conservative, but if I'm wrong, please correct
Not
me. I don't.
really.
Okay, well, I'm sorry, whatever. A lot of conservatives will say, oh, they teach it in schools and stuff like that. They were not talking about anything remotely like that when I was in school. The only thing that they had that was similar to what I am was like gay, but that was just because there was not as much information, right? But it was
Are
not
you
an
in the
ideology.
U.S.?
Sorry, yes, I
Are
am.
you okay? Yeah. So okay, the ideology really started to explode in 2016. So how old would you have been in 2016?
I was 10 or 11,
Okay,
but
so
at
it's
the time,
definitely exploded by the time you were 11. And as far
and
as like,
honestly, maybe it did, but it didn't reach me. But I'm telling you, and I know you're not gonna believe it, but I always had feelings. Obviously, I didn't know what gender dysphoria was when I was a child. I didn't have the vocabulary, right, to say why I felt this way, but I did feel that, that cliche saying, I'm sure you've heard, like, I feel like a girl trapped in a boy's body. But you have to understand, I was 7 years old, so obviously I didn't have the vocabulary, sorry, and didn't understand gender dysphoria and all that, if that makes any sense. So it's always
so
been there.
out of curiosity, what does that look like for you? Like, were you just very feminine? Like, did you
It's
just?
so here's the thing. If you genuinely want to know, so I've
Mhm,
always
I
been
do.
very, very feminine. Not even just like, oh, I like the color pink, or like, I want to play with a Barbie, but even just like my mannerisms, the way I would walk and talk, I always
Hmm.
kind of like talk to them. Feminine mannerisms. Like
Yeah,
it was always
absolutely.
like, and it was like I would just, I would say I was like hyper feminine. It was honestly like I acted like a little girl. Like if I'm being honest, like I didn't
Yeah,
really act like a boy at all. And then, but it was more than that. It was like I didn't like, and I know this sounds weird, but I really felt like my genitals didn't belong to my body, and I would think about these things at a young age, and I was just wondering, like, why do I think like this? You know what I mean? Because this is not normal. Like, no other boys think like this. Like, I didn't like looking at it when I would take showers or when I had to use the bathroom. I mean, obviously I had to, but it bothered me. And then obviously it got worse, as I got older, because my voice started to drop and my shoulders, etc., male
yeah,
puberty. But when I was a child, it was not as strong now because I did not go through puberty, but I did feel just this misalignment with the way I was perceived, and also just with my own reproductive organs, if that makes any sense.
yeah. And when did hold on, my daughter is just dropping off some stuff into my car, so I'm just gonna mute for a
Uh-huh.
quick second and I'll be right back. But I want to hear more. Just one second.
She left, but she'll be back. I have to go soon too, so probably
Sorry, she's my daughter's just coming in the car. Hold on one second.
that's all good.
Okay, go on with your story. So, oh, what I wanted to ask was, when did you start feeling uncomfortable with your actual body?
More time.
When did you start becoming uncomfortable with your actual body? Like, and I'm
Um,
not talking about like, because yeah, being a feminine boy can be stigmatizing, right? It can make you feel like you're not
a hundred
correct.
percent. Yes, a hundred
So,
percent. It was not
because
just the way I was.
the world is like not exactly the most accommodating when people are either a feminine boy or a masculine girl, right? It's getting better to where people don't care as much, but in the past it was like boys were given the message that if you are feminine, there's something wrong with you. This is how girls act. You need to, the only way that this type of behavior or mannerism or how you are is acceptable is if you are a female, right? So
Mhm.
children internalize that really quickly, right? So if your
Of course.
nature is feminine, which I believe in that 100%, I believe that people can be born innately more feminine or more masculine. um,
Would
so
you
if
not
children
say then
receive the
though? Sorry.
message
Sorry, go
so
ahead.
if children receive the message that the way they are inherently is wrong, and that type of inherentness belongs to the other sex, that can be incredibly um, I don't know. I guess I could say traumatizing, but just really like it can create a core belief that there's something wrong with you. You're born in the wrong body. That it's not acceptable for a male to be feminine.
So it wasn't just like because I believe there's levels to it, right? I like when I was a kid there were like tom girls, but I feel like it really only extended to like they liked to me it doesn't even really seem like a tom girl, but it was mostly like they liked like baseball or something, right? But the way they would talk and act, like their mannerisms were still feminine. I think there's levels to it, of course. I don't think like I told you, like I was very hyper feminine, to like a very, very feminine. But I think also because you just said you believe that some people are innately born feminine, correct?
Yeah,
And
I do
okay.
believe that they're like, because I've met boys that like obviously they didn't learn this behavior. It's and they're smaller in stature, the way that their mannerisms and their body, it
That
just
was me.
there's
Yeah,
definitely some feminizing things happening, like whether that's something in the brain or whether that's something that happened with hormones or whatever affected their development in whatever way. They are inherently a feminine boy or inherently a masculine girl. That's just, I 100% think that that's a thing.
so
But
then would it be fair to say then that, even though, genetically and, my reproductive organs, I would be the same as my father's and my brother's, would it be fair to say that there are differences with our brains, because otherwise, why would I be like this? You know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah,
Because,
I
so
100% think there are differences. And this is why I think women feel so comfortable with men who mimic the female sex who are feminine. And like, because they'll always be like, you asked that question earlier, actually, you're like, well, why are women so cool with me? And it's like, because women feel that inherent feminineness and they feel safer around it, right? And this is why so many of them will fight. But what they don't realize is that the majority of the men who are doing this behavior of mimicking the female sex, they're not like you. The majority of the men who are doing this are autogynephilic, creepy, fetishistic assholes. So they don't understand that this has been sold as like some kind of thing where we're being nice to men like you. But here's the thing: it's really cruel and terrible that men like you feel like you need to pretend you're the sex you're not in order to be as feminine as you are. And you feel the need to attack your sex in order to just
even
be how you are
before.
inherently, which is that's the heart. Like, that's so if even when people are like supporting that, they're supporting your extreme levels of self-harm and disassociation from reality and your body, which is like really, really heartbreaking. Hold on 1 sec, I'll be right back. So yeah, I under no
I
circumstances
want to
think that.
respond. Oh,
Oh yeah,
sorry.
go ahead,
Okay,
yeah, go
so
ahead.
Um, so first of all, I just want to say that even before I started transitioning, because even though I always knew that I did not feel comfortable being male, there was a period of time where I was living, I would say to society and the people who knew me as like a very feminine gay boy, right? Even
Mm-hmm.
then, where I could express, I didn't have to hide my mannerisms, and I was like not hiding the fact that I was attracted to men and not women. Even
Mhm.
then, I've still felt uncomfortable, right? With the way, like when I was alone with myself and I would see myself in the mirror, or I'd be naked, or if I was intimate with another male, if they would, I'm trying not to be graphic, but I feel like it's worth mentioning, if they would try to touch that part of me, it felt very uncomfortable for me, right? It
Mhm.
felt very it shouldn't feel like that for most people, it just felt wrong, and it's hard to put into words if you're not trans. And I don't, to be honest, I'm not even trying to be disrespectful. I think that you have a misconception of trans people because of like TikTok and social media, and you're saying like we're all AGPs,
Well, no,
but
I understand that.
I'm
I've
saying
come across boys or men like you. I understand that this is not the entirety. When I talk about the majority of this movement being AGP, that's what it is. Like there's far more AGPs than there are hyper feminine gay men and boys. Like they are the ones populating your movement. They are the ones funding it. They are the ones pushing it. This is not a grassroots movement coming from you guys. This is from the top down. Autogynephile billionaires like Martin Rothblatt, Jennifer Pritzker, they've taken their billions of dollars and created gender clinics, created foundations that train activists to be in politics and be in school boards. They're the ones who fund the Soji 123 that goes in schools from K to 12. Like if you wonder why your movement has gained big pharma, big tech, big corporation, big the medical industrial complex, like all the patriarchal, powerful institutions backing, it's not because you're this like grassroots civil rights movement that they're just having like a conscience about. Like this is a literal top down perpetration of a sick fucking ideology, and they're using you guys as the reason to do it. I understand you exist, but here's the thing that's sad is that just because you're a feminine man who has gender dysphoria doesn't mean that you're this person called trans. You're just a like having gender dysphoria doesn't create a type of person. The behavior of wishing to mimic a sex that you're not doesn't, it's not a type of human being. You're just a man who has dysphoria about your sex and your gender, and the best thing that would be could happen for you like would be to get to the root of that dysphoria. So you say even after you were
from the
allowed
story, I
but
and not even
hold on,
allowed. Sorry, go ahead. I don't
hold
mean to
on. You
cut you
said
off.
after you were allowed to, or not allowed, but you felt more comfortable with being feminine, and you didn't have to mask, and you didn't have to, you could be openly gay and you could be openly feminine. That didn't feel like the dysphoria remained, right? And that's an unfortunate
Yes, basically. It
side
was a
effect.
brief, sorry, it was a brief moment of like happiness, maybe for like a week or two, because it did lift a burden off, obviously not having to act masculine, but the dysphoria still remained.
Yeah.
It wasn't that I felt, and I think there's a misconception like, oh, it's like a body dysphoria. I never considered myself like an unattractive person. I just didn't like the male aspects, so like the voice, the shoulders and the genitalia. So it's not the same as like this flaw you feel that you have, or this delusion, because I think you said it's like delusion. I'm very aware
No,
of my
no, I don't
biological
think it's a
reality. Well,
delusion.
I'm very well of my biological reality. That's why I try to change it, because I'm aware that what I have or what I was born with, if that makes
Well,
sense.
what I'd like to have seen for you would have been to get to the so the damage was done, right? Whatever happened because of your inherent nature, whatever messages you internalized and received about how you are, and that created a core belief that you're wrong, that females are the only ones who are allowed to be like this. All of this sort of took root in childhood, right? And then when you were allowed, finally, when you were sort of not oppressed anymore about that, even for 5 minutes, like you said, that relief just it didn't cure the dysphoria that had taken root because of the messages and whatever or not that you internalized. So the best thing for you, rather than following the dysphoria, because here's what the psyche will do. If you take any proactive approach to your mental health, there's going to be relief from that. And this is why the trans journey, I do the little quotation marks, this is why the trans journey is so insidious and harmful, because it's this whole entire journey, right? It creates this like journey of a placebo effect that you can start to embark on. And it's just over the next hill, right? It's just a little bit more feminization. It's just a little bit longer on the hormones. It's just after the surgery. It's just this, it's just that. But you're not actually addressing the reason for the dysphoria in the first place. You're just doing what the dysphoria tells you to do, which is batshit crazy, by the way. Like, we don't do that for any other type of dysmorphia or dysphoria. Never, never, never. Fucking crazy town to do that. But for this one, which is a highly profitable and has all of these agendas attached to it, blah, 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 of course we're going to make an exception, right? But the best thing to do would have been to get to the root, get to a modality or a therapist that could help you uproot these core beliefs, these internalized ideas about femininity inside your male body, on and on and on, that would unravel and free you from the disdain and the discomfort and the disgust and any of the things that you feel about your natural, beautiful, healthy, perfect body that has nothing the fuck wrong with it. Absolutely nothing. There was no need to attack your sex body in order to create a mimicry of the sex that you're not. The damage is done, I guess. I don't know what you've all done to yourself, but now you're going to have to be on wrong sex hormones your whole life. If you castrated yourself, you're fucked. Like, there's
I
no going back.
did. I'm getting um facial feminization surgery, but
That's fucking
that's
hurt. Yeah. So you've
okay.
completely
But
fucked over your entire body, and that's like that. The damage is done, right? So now you got to do what you got to do, and I get
to
that.
Martha, just to let you know, I was not using that part of my body before I transitioned anyway, so it's not like I was ever going to um start a family with a woman, and I had no plan of even using that with if I was to be with a man. I did not
Well,
like
you
looking
you
at
were
it.
using the sex
I was
hormones
using
that
it
your body
to
needed.
urinate, right? But I can still
Yeah,
do
to
that now.
urinate and to
I
to do,
still do.
like, your sex hormones were coming from there. Like, this is holistic. Your body's holistic, and for you to attack it and amputate aspects of it that are very much so needed for your endocrine health and for your entire bodily health and for your ability to have an orgasm, for your ability to be a sexually active.
Oh, I still
uh,
can.
how though? Like, I don't understand if that is
I still
gone.
have my prostate. I just can't obviously ejaculate sperm anymore, but I wasn't really doing that often. And even when I did, it was like over my clothes because I didn't even like touching it. Like that's how bad it was. And
Yeah.
you said I should have gone to therapy. I actually did go to therapy for years, and I did have someone to talk to, not even just for the trans thing, because I did have other issues that all came from that, right? But it was like for example, I was very socially awkward when I came out because I had spent most of my life pretending, right? So obviously it got in the way of making friends, etc. So I did go to therapy and I did bring up how I felt about myself. And for a while, even though I knew I was trans, I kind of tried to tell myself like I should just try to live as a gay man because I've already went through like my male puberty and I'm always going to look like a man. And it's not that I didn't find people who accepted me for being feminine. Like I still like I made friends, people were nice to me. I found people who supported me being feminine, people who didn't. I had gained community. I made gay friends, I made female friends, but I still felt uncomfortable with my biological sex. And I think it's just hard for you to comprehend that because and it's not even like a diss to you, it's just that if you don't
No,
have
I
gender
know.
dysphoria, it's hard
I
to put
like I
yourself
like
in
that you're
those
trying to help me
shoes.
understand, but like,
Yeah,
here's
no,
the thing. Like,
I'm really not trying to be rude at all. I'm
no,
really
you're
just
not.
trying
You're not
to
even
work.
being rude, sort of. You're
Yeah.
not even slightly being rude. Um, yeah, so here's the thing though, like, you're 19. There, if given time and therapy, and yeah, you've had therapy, but here's the thing about therapy is there's thousands of modalities and thousands of people who may or may not work with you where you're at in your life that will help you unravel trauma or unravel core beliefs or unravel whatever's going on for you. Giving yourself time to grow into your sexuality, get to comfortable with your body, and start to pick away and uproot the roots of the dysphoria, of the core beliefs that gave you that dysphoria. Because like, the ideology probably sold you that there's this thing called trans that you're born with, and the dysphoria cannot be helped. You're born dysphoric, which is absolute fucking bullshit. Dysphoria does not ever come from being born. You're not ever born dysphoric. But it develops through experiences, through messages about your body and the world. and culture and what's expected and blah blah blah. This dysphoria never is something you're inherently born with. So dysphoria can 100% be cured and figured out. Everybody's reason for dysphoria is different, so that's why it's a bit tricky, because it's not like here's the answer to dysphoria. There isn't one. But what there is your answer to dysphoria, right? So you figure out, okay, where did this come from? Where did I start to internalize these messages that my body was wrong because of how I am inherently, on and on and on. You figure that out. It takes time. It takes energy. It takes the right therapist. It takes the right modality. And then it also takes growing up and your brain developing fully and your body, you're like getting more grounded into your body and into reality. You were coping through disassociation, which that kind of coping mechanism is maladaptive. As much as it's adaptive to survive sometimes for a short term, it's maladaptive on the long term, right? So you can't just continue to disassociate from reality and your body and have that be a long term solution.
Um,
So being 19, you're literally like, you're just a fucking baby. Like you have, so you would have, had you not have been sucked into this cult and this into this ideology, and to them being like, you're a trans type of person and you just need to do this. Had you not have anything like that happen to you, you could have been like, okay, let's get help with this dysphoria, get to the root of it, uproot it, resolve it, and then you would get more comfortable with your body, more comfortable with your sexuality, you'd grow up into a man more, and then things would be, resolved as much as they can be. Now you've gotten caught up in this cult, into this ideology, you've permanently disfigured and harmed yourself. All you can do now is try to mitigate the harms you've done. I do hope for you that you still get to the root of your dysphoria. I like, as much as you've done the damage and the sunken cost fallacy and all of that bullshit, you still could find a proper therapist to unravel the core beliefs about your feminine self as a boy or whatever. And maybe one day you can detransition, even though it is kind of futile, because you need to be on a sex
Going,
hormone for the rest of
no,
your life, whether it's estrogen or testosterone. And I guess I heard today, actually, I don't know if you were listening to Mia Hughes, but there was the one guy who detransitioned who had amputated his penis, and he couldn't go on testosterone because it would make like this stump that was left like twitch and it hurt. And so he's remaining on estrogen even though he is detransitioning, because it's just so the sex drive coming back with the testosterone, and the discomfort of this like stump like thing, like whatever. So you might have to face this kinds of thing. And I really hope one day you do become a soldier in the fight against this ideology, so that more young boys your age and in your predicament don't go down that level of extreme self-harm and irreparable damage to their bodies. And I hope for when one day you resolve the dysphoria, get out of the cult, return your body to as much health as it can manage now that the damage is done, and then fight with us so that no more boys your age will ever fall into this ideology again. And you could be a powerful voice in that, because you went through it all. But something tells me you have more journey to go before you get there. So that maybe you'll
that was
never.
a
I don't know.
lot. That was a lot you said, so I don't really know where to start. But
Well, I don't
I'm
know how much more can be said after, like, because
well.
that's just the way it is.
I think that you have this misconception about me personally, that I have not done enough soul searching, or that I haven't had these deep conversations with myself about why I feel the way I
Well, yeah,
feel.
you're
And
19. Like, fuck.
I have done all this. I think one
Yeah,
thing that a
says
lot of
every
the young
19-year-old. I know. You're
okay,
still in the teens,
what
dude.
okay, all right.
Fuck.
I want to say, so one thing is that we start to think about our identity a lot sooner than most people, and this can even go not even just for trans, just for gay people, right? For example, most straight children don't think about their sexuality until they're about maybe like in middle school, whereas most gay children, they don't start and they start way earlier, because they notice that society, they notice they have a mom and a dad. In all the movies, it's like a man and a woman. So obviously they're going to think about that more. The same thing goes for me. Most kids probably don't think about why they act, why they walk that way, or why they talk that way, because they fit into this norm, right? So I have always, questioned why I am the way I am, and if I could be a normal boy, or you know what I mean, like what you're basically saying, like can I just accept being a feminine man? And the answer is no. I don't like being a feminine man because I don't like my masculine characteristics. It's not, and then people in the comments are saying, when I said my facial feminization surgery, like, you're not, there's nothing wrong with your face. It's not that I think that I'm ugly. It's to erase the masculine traits about me. It's I feel like it's hard to for you guys
You're
to
breaking my
understand.
heart. Like for you
I'm
to try to
breaking your heart. And then you
you
say,
are
like, oh, I need to detransition. That would be miserable for me. Like, yeah, I cannot transition, but I'm gonna live the rest of my life in misery. And I'm not trying to trauma dump,
not
but
no
I
not
felt
if you
very,
resolved your gender
I
dysphoria.
felt very lonely and unaliving ideation before I transitioned. Like, every day was a nightmare, and I don't want other children to go through that. So you're saying to not let them transition. It's like you're trying to sentence them to a life of either unaliving themselves or just misery.
But
Like,
you don't
it's
understand what I said. I gave you the whole spiel. Like, here's the thing. Like, nobody needs to pretend there's something they're not in order to not be miserable. Like, I understand that'll work for a while, and you're still on the journey of erasing or trying to erase reality, but you're never going to be able to do it. All you're doing is a
Oh, I
mimicry.
know. No,
You're
Martha, listen.
you're
I know dating, it will always be hard for me. I know that people will always perceive me a certain way because I went through male puberty. So no matter how many surgeries, if I had all the money in the world, I'm very aware of my biological reality. But what I have learned is that there is still a way for me to live a productive and content life with accepting, okay, I went through this. I can't change this because I started at this age, but there's still things in life that I can find that can make me feel happy. Yes, life is always going to be difficult for me. I will never be able to completely change my sex. I won't be able to ever get pregnant or whatever, makes you female, but I'm happier now than I was before, and that makes it all worth it, at the end of the
well,
day.
I mean, again, you're just 19, so like you've done all of this super fast in a way that like you have no idea. Like you're trying to pretend you're something you're not, and you
Super
have the
fast, girl. It
energy,
took me a long time to raise that money for my bottom surgery. What are
right?
you
But
talking
dude,
about?
you're literally 19 years old. Like I know that
You know
life
how many
feels
sugar daddies I had to have in high school and how long I had to
ugh,
work to get
like
that?
I understand that like it seems like a lot. You see, like when I was 19, I was an insufferable know-it-all. Like you have no idea. I would just, oh my god. When I look back, I'm just like fuck. But like you have to understand that like you do grow into yourself. You do grow into your sexuality and into your body, and you could have been helped. And for you to say that other kids are going to be doomed to live miserable lives if they don't try to pretend they're something they're not,
And they
just shows
will.
that you're just shows that you're still very indoctrinated into the ideology. It's absurd to think that the answer to anything is to disassociate from reality and pretend it's not real and try to, as you say, erase it or eradicate as many traces of it as you can. You're never, ever, 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 ever going to be able to escape reality. And all of the efforts that you're making, sure, you're young, you have all this energy to be trying to suspend reality right now, but as you get older, it's going to get more tedious and exhausting. And you would have been better off. Like there's not even a shred of doubt in my mind that you would have been better off if you would have just learned to accept reality and the truth, and you wouldn't have to put in effort to try to pretend you're something you're not. And now you have all these issues. Now you're going to be needing to like either violate women's boundaries in order to get along in society, or make men and boys uncomfortable in their space, or else you're going to have to constantly find single occupancy
You've
spaces in
always
order to
been
not violate.
uncomfortable around people like me, okay? It doesn't matter. Even if I stayed the fuck, sorry, even if I stayed the little gay twink that I was in high school, I would have still made men uncomfortable. That's never going to change. And I don't think you
Well,
have
no,
any
if
way
you're
to
if you're actually
sound like.
mimicking the female side, like what do you do? Do you
But
right now? Do you
what do you
go
consider? What do you consider mimicking the female sex? Like when I cross dress, or when I like the
when
breast
you take
tissue.
measures? Yeah, when you take measures to mimic our actual anatomy. So when you're um, putting wrong sex hormones into your body so that your body is forced to feminize, when you're either getting breast implants or growing gynecomastia to mimic the fact that, like, mimic our breasts, when you do all the horrific shit to your penis and try to create like a fake vagina, and then you go on to cross dress, and then you go on to do the stereotypes and things that surround our sex.
But it's not
in
like
order to
doing the
create.
stereotypes as an act. Like I am naturally feminine. I think you think we're trying to like
Right,
mimic
but
it, like
right, but
be wearing it
if
as
you
a
did that
costume.
without, if you did that without mimicking the actual sex anatomy, it wouldn't be offensive, right? Because there's lots of gay men who are super feminine who enact the stereotypes that surround women that like it's not offensive at all. Just like if white people do some of the black stereotypes or whatever, and they don't
Hmm.
actually try to darken their skin and make their nose look different, make their hair look different, like then it's not offensive, right? But like when you actually take our anatomy and mimic that plus the stereotypes and then call yourself a woman and then violate women's boundaries, which I haven't asked you yet. Do you violate women's boundaries in society because of what
Do
you've
I
done to yourself?
violate women's boundaries? So it depends on the setting, right? And I know you're gonna disagree with it, but I'm gonna just say it anyways. So, like, if I'm at the club with my friends, then I go into the women's bathroom. Um, Locker rooms, not usually.
So
Um,
you think because you're with your friends and you're in a bar
Well, yeah, it's
environment that the
different. Even I mean, it's different. Even like before I started transitioning, when I used to go out, when I would go to the, if I'd go to the bathroom, literally girls, they were literally like, no, girl, like come in here, like you belong with us, like like I know you don't, but you women are so scared, but a lot of women support people who are like me. I know the TikTok it makes it seem like they don't, but it's always been girls who have my back. It's never men, first of all.
well, women cannot give away things that we fought for. Like there's lots of women who also think we shouldn't be voting, and there's women who march in FGM parades, and there's always women who support further oppression, ideologies that hurt us. There's lots of women who support sex work and corn and surrogacy and all these things that hurt women and children.
Mhm.
Because it's a patriarchal sort of thing, they want to support that because this is how we've stayed alive as women
But
and
you
girls,
said
is to.
yourself, Martha. You said yourself earlier that you, I think, if correct me if I don't know if this is the exact words, but you said that a lot of women like people who are like me because they sense that innate femininity, right? Like
Yeah,
that comes
definitely
every
there's
other way,
that
right?
too.
So,
And like
and when
women have
I
always like
do
let.
walk, when I do walk into a female space, they don't ever feel threatened by me. They just can kind
Yeah.
of just tell by my stance, just the way I look. Even if I don't look completely female, they just can kind of, like you said, they just sense like this person is not, is like, it might also have to do with the way I look, because I do know trans people who do look, unfortunately, they just look more masculine, and it makes them a little bit harder for them to feel more comfortable in those spaces. And women might judge them for that, but like you said, like there's just something going on because they've always looked smaller in stature, or just whatever.
Yeah,
Like
and
even
they
when
they
I was,
sense the femininity.
even when I was just a gay boy, or like I still looked just very feminine. So I've just never had any experiences where women felt uncomfortable around me, whether verbally or just like by their body language. So it's like it's never been an issue, and I've never, in my
Well,
personal experience.
unfortunately, because of the explosion of the ideology and the unleashing of all the autogynephiles that used to practice their fetish behind closed doors, there is no more goodwill for that type of leniency anymore. There's no like, oh well, we know, because women used to be like that with drag queens or like that with gay men. Yeah, come on in the bathroom, let's all party, whatever. Now things have gotten really, really
We touch up
serious.
together,
Yeah,
makeup.
touch ups, and like there was more room for people to be a good sport about this kind of thing because it was really rare. It was just super hyper feminine gay men, and it was like whatever. But now we've got a really serious situation where like 10-year-olds are getting raped and beaten and hurt in bathrooms by these men, where women are being raped in grape shelters, where women are like, the other day in a like I'm actually at the pool right now. I'm gonna go in and do laps after we talk. At a rec center, just like I'm at right now, there was a mother with two young girls. This big fat giant fucking autogynephile with a child sparkly bikini was in there showering with the girls in the communal shower. They ran to the mom. Oh my god, there's a fucking big man in there. And the mother goes and looks. Sure enough, there's a big hairy man in a child sparkly bikini in the shower. She goes to the pool and is like, what the actual fuck? And they're like, yeah, we have a gender identity policy here where you just are allowed to if you fucking say so. And so now we've got like violations of women's privacy, dignity, and safety in spaces we carved out for ourselves so that we could participate in society. So there's no fringy um like sort of like leeway anymore. Now we have to be dead serious about our boundaries the things that the provisions that we carved out for ourselves to have away from the male sex, there's no fucking
Mhm.
around anymore. There's no leeway. Absolutely not. Every single one of you fuckers need to stay the fuck out. No exceptions, because this is dangerous at this point. We have all of these autogynephiles, which paraphilias, if you know anything about them, are extremely dangerous.
So I think I understand what you're saying. You fear that because society's become more accepting of trans people, that straight men are gonna take advantage and they're gonna just say, "Oh, I identify as trans," right? So you've opened up the
No,
space for
no, no,
men to
no.
come
I
in
mean, there
here.
is that. There's definitely that where like any man can just say he's a woman
Yeah.
and like perpetrate anything now. They can violate the boundaries. And like a lot of criminals are doing that. Like they'll do horrific rapes and horrific shit. And then they'll identify
Uh-huh.
as a woman in prison in order to get out of the male prison or to get more protections and things like that. Like that's all happening for sure. But what I'm talking about is the explosion of the ideology and the perpetration of it by the autogynephiles has given the signal, given the go ahead for all autogynephiles to now practice their paraphilia in front of their families, at work, in women's spaces, in society. And there are far more autogynephiles than there are hyper feminine gay men who wish to mimic the female sex. And the men who get the surgeries more often than you guys do are the autogynephiles because their paraphilias drive them to such extreme measures. And you have to understand, like, there's like in the 80s, they did a study, like 51% of sex killers were autogynephiles. This is a dangerous paraphilia. It clusters with other paraphilias like P3ophilia, really sick shit, right? And this is why 74% of the men who are mimicking the female sex in prison are there for sexual and violent crime against women and children, whereas like 13% of men who are not mimicking the female sex are in there for sexual crime against women and children. So it just like the reason this demographic is so much higher in the mimicry of our sex is because of the autogynephiles. Like, do I think hyper feminine twinkie gay boys like you are in there because of sex crimes against women and children? No. I think it's the autogynephiles that are in there. So this ideology has unleashed the transgenders, the transmaxers, the predators, the AGPs. Every man can now violate women's boundaries at their own will. And the
The
men who
thing is,
are
Martha, even if it was all illegal for us, like even if it was you guys did a complete ban of just people like us, or I don't even want to say us because I'm not an AGP, but even if you did this whole ban, like the reality is that society is not perfect, and even if you made it illegal, you can't. A man does not need to put on a dress and a wig to go in a bathroom and commit a horrendous crime against a woman. I mean, at
right,
that
but
point,
we have
it doesn't
safeguarding,
have to
right?
do with being trans. That's just you're already committing a crime that has
No,
nothing to do with
that's
gender
not
if you
how it
walk
works. So
into.
usually crimes that are committed in public like that are opportunistic crimes. So things like safeguarding do prevent opportunistic crime. There are very few crimes that are like completely premeditated like that, like they're going to go into this bathroom at this time and they're going to do that. Like the so regardless of whether the crimes are going to be committed, the violation of women and girls' privacy and dignity is enough of a reason for men to stay out. And then there's the added like AGPs. They go in there, they jay off in the stall next to us. They record themselves jaying off. I can send you compilations of hundreds of these men going into our spaces, jaying off, leaving their cum, leaving like planting it, going into our things,
I'm not
grabbing out
saying that's
tampons,
never
grabbing out
happened, but
like they're
anecdotes
no, but
aren't
they
enough. I'm saying
it's
anecdotes
not
are not
anecdotal
enough.
though. Like it's literally the majority. Like this is what for them, like okay, with paraphilias it's not enough for them just to cross dress, it's not enough for them just to get surgeries and mimic our sex for their own sexual pleasure. They need to cross boundaries and consent. That's part of the paraphilia. That's why the 51% of sex killers were autogynephiles or they have paraphilias is because the boundaries need to be broken, right? This is why it's sexually titillating to them because they're being they're breaking boundaries in society and they're breaking boundaries within norms and stuff like that. And that doesn't, it's like a drug, right? Like it just can't, there's never enough, right? So if we let these men violate our boundaries to practice their paraphilias within our spaces, that's not going to be enough anymore, right? Because it used to be a taboo. Oh my God, we're breaking the rules. Now they're not breaking the rules. They're just going in. They're allowed to jay off in there and do disgusting fucking things in there. They film themselves. They film us. They do voyeurism, harassment, intimidation, indecent exposure. They do all sorts of disgusting shit that we should not be having to put up with in the first place. And then it's not going to do it anymore, right? So the more we let these men practice their paraphilias in society and in our spaces, the more they're going to need. And now they're going to move on to greater breaches of boundaries and consent. So this is actually putting us in extreme danger because the majority of the men who are doing this fucking behavior of mimicking our sex have a paraphilia. So I can see it from your point of view. You're just like, oh, well, I don't. And, whatever. But like,
Trans
they,
people
most of them
don't.
fucking do. So like, we can't, and even if it wasn't like 90% of them, even if it was like 30% of them, we still do not need men for any fucking reason, whether they're hyper feminine gay men or fetishy pervy men, violating women and girls' boundaries because they're mimicking our sex. Our sex is not up for your colonization. It's not up for men's colonization. It's not up for your fetishization. It's not up for anything. We are a protected sex class because we are vulnerable. We are unalived by men every 11 minutes, raped every 60 seconds. We need the safeguarding measures and provisions we've carved out for ourselves in society to have away from the male sex. And yes, there was leeway before because of the feminine men, but there's not now because the ideology has unleashed all of it onto us. And we already have extreme levels of oppression and violence and discrimination to deal with. We can't deal with this shit. We can't because it's obliterated everything that we already fucking fought for and carved out to have to deal with all of that shit, right? So now we don't even have the shit we've already carved out for ourselves because you fuckers want to like take everything because you're mimicking our sex. So it's like the
So
whole
I
thing just has to be like no. It's just no to all of it.
so listen, I have to go soon. I wish I could stay longer. I have to go soon, so I
No
just want to
worries. I
wrap
gotta
up
go
because
swim as well.
you said a lot of things, and I'm trying to remember them all. It sounds like you're very passionate about this, but I before I want to go, I just wanted to go back to where like just for my closing about when you said that I should have done more soul searching, that like, oh, I'm only 19, how can I know? I had to mature a lot faster than a lot of 19-year-olds. I was in a group home at 15 because I was disowned by my family. So I have definitely had
See
to
right
go
there. That's like
mature to
years of therapy
mature a
that could
little
unravel.
faster. But listen, okay, I'm trying to tell you, I had to mature a lot faster. So I have done a lot of soul searching, sorry, about myself. So I know myself very well. And
Well, I mean, it
that's
doesn't matter how much you had to grow up fast. And here's the thing, I grew up fast as well. And all I learned from that was maturing fast doesn't actually mature you fast. It's actually a setback. Like I've found that I'm always playing catch up in my life now because I was so mature when I was younger. All it did was stunt me and set me back, and I learned things slower than everyone else because I had to mature faster than other people. So it's actually better to not mature faster because then you actually mature properly. When you have to mature fast, it's like a survival mechanism, and it doesn't actually give you that true maturity that you get from. It was only when I could finally carve out some safety for myself and some stability was then I actually matured, and then my prefrontal cortex actually matured. But before then, it was just a matter of I lived in survival mode for probably 35 years of my life, and it wasn't until I finally carved out some safety. So I know it's hard to hear because you're just like, shut up, old person who's 43. Like, you don't fucking know me. But like, I know that when you're 19 and the things that you've already told me, like, you could have just given time and given help and given support. This wasn't the
Mm,
answer, and it's still not the answer. But
with all okay, I gotta go, but
yeah,
for
I
the last
appreciate
things
you coming
I
and
want to say,
talking.
I do think and I don't want you to think that I haven't listened to anything you've said at all, but I think the unfortunate truth is that no matter how I word it or how I explain my life story to you, you will never understand, unfortunately, because that's just we can never truly understand somebody's story completely. I mean, I would say you don't sound now that I'm talking to you because before when I was in your chat, you don't sound like somebody who completely like despises and hates people who are trans, but I do think that maybe just a little bit. I think that you have a misconception about my community as a whole is all just just a little bit. I don't think that you completely understand and, you know,
Well, I've
see
been
as.
fighting this ideology for 13 years, and I've made it my business to understand as much as I can. And I've interacted with far more trans people than I ever would have had I had not been fighting this ideology. So it's definitely, and I've seen it explode in my community. So now I'm dealing with all of these people mimicking the opposite sex in my real life that I've never had to before. And so I think I've got a pretty firm grasp on what's going on. I've followed the money, I've followed the different agendas. I've talked to tons of detransitioners and people who have gone down this path. I think I have a really robust understanding of it actually, and that's why I have more compassion for people like yourself or women who are mimicking the male sex. But I have no understanding or love or empathy for the autogynephiles who are mimicking our sex, destroying their families, destroying our rights, perpetrating this ideology, for the sick, twisted bastards who are like putting out these agendas and profiting and destroying children's bodies and doing horrific things. No sympathy for them. But I definitely have more sympathy for people like yourself and for, yeah, women. But yeah, thanks for coming up. Thanks for talking to me. My my headphones are unaliving. But you can come up another time too. We can keep talking if you like. I understand that you're not going to, you know, take these out. I understand that you're not going to be like, oh my God, Martha's made me see the light at 19 years old when you've already done all this horrific shit to your body and you're on your exciting trans journey of like doing all the things that will keep you walking you down this transitional path that's supposed to transform you into something you're not, and will keep improving your mental health, which has been already improved by like disassociating from your reality. And so like right now you're not going to see it, and I understand that, but hopefully like the things that I say to you could somehow take root or like seed in your mind, so that you're, when you do realize that this hasn't solved anything and it has not solved the reason why you had the dysphoria in the first place, and you didn't actually address anything, and you became a victim of this ideology and of these of the sort of agendas. I hope one day you do realize that. I hope you take the healthiest path that you can in life, and that you help us one day fight this ideology, because it's going to be people like you who at a young age were duped into this, weren't given enough time to ground into your sexuality and into your body, weren't given enough help to unravel the roots of the dysphoria. You're the biggest victims, right? And that I don't see the autogynephiles as victims. I see them as perpetrators, but I see young men like yourself definitely as victims of this ideology, and you have every right to one day be very, very angry at the ideology, at, sad that you went to Thailand and did that, sad that you can even go to Thailand and do that. Fuck you, Thailand, for castrating our children, you fuckers. Yeah, I don't know. Let's read some comments. There are people not diagnosed with gender dysphoria. I mean, even the people diagnosed with gender dysphoria are extremely problematic. I just, when it's just kids like that, like, how can you be mad at kids? Like, he's 19 years old. He started doing this shit when he was like 13 or something. Like, like, he was, 2016 is when the ideology completely exploded. He was like, what did he say? He's 10? Like, how can you blame a kid who's a feminine gay boy who got caught up in a sick cult and an ideology and like irreparably damaged his body? You can't be like, fuck you to him, right? But like, just because someone gets a gender dysphoria diagnosis doesn't mean they're non-problematic. And if you're still listening at all, please stay the fuck out of women's spaces. I understand there was leeway and there was more all in good fun before, but it's not like that now. It's really serious now, and all men need to stay out regardless of how feminine they are. I'm gonna read some comments, and then I'm gonna go swimming in the pool. Females can't get pregnant. Some men are females. What? There's no men that are females. Don't be dumb. Intersex kids are the ones getting unconsensual surgeries. No, they're not. Sure, gender dysphoria is real, but affirmation is not treatment. Exactly. So women can get pregnant. Thank you for getting this. Your Thai? Well, tell your Thai friend, or your not your friends, but tell your country to stop castrating our children. I think he's a liar. It applies everywhere. Can't even name a word. There are people not diagnosed with gender dysphoria. It's mental health. I don't need a college degree to use my eyes. Spot on. Oh, hey, it's about time. Haven't seen you in a while. Follow you back. So trans men, some females, or trans men. Yeah, nobody's a man who's female. Mimicking a sex that you're not does not make you some kind of man or woman. It's all BS. I think he will come around when matured. That's the problem. I know, it's so sad. And like, it really is true. Like I said, like when you have to mature quickly, it stunts your maturity rather than like gives you more maturity. Like I've been playing catch up my whole life because I had to mature really quickly. All that does is it utilizes costly coping mechanisms so that you can so-called mature quickly, but your prefrontal, your intelligence is not maturing. Just like I said earlier in my like long ass speech, intelligence will only go forward when it's given the message that it's safe enough to do so. So it took me until I could create certain amounts of safety for myself for me to actually mature properly. And then I realized a whole bunch of stuff. And I was like, oh my God, like when I was in survival mode, I did a lot of stupid things just to survive, right? And unfortunately, he's so young and it's so sad. Really, really sad. Gender dysphoria is not an ideology. Yes, it is an ideology. Gender dysphoria was not a thing until it was created as a social contagion. Nobody was feeling gender dysphoric before like 2010. We're talking about the definition of women, so the definition just defines what a woman is. Makes perfect sense. We have different definitions for the same words. A huge part of what Martha's sharing is shared opinions with trans people. That's why they're different definitions. Yeah, I really please don't do any more surgeries. Like just stop the damage now. Let yourself grow up more. The more damage you do to yourself, the less like you can go back. And like facial feminization surgery is just so horrific. Like why are you hurting yourself? Stop attacking your body and attacking you cannot change reality. No matter how much you attack it and try to erase it and try to cover it over with this false truth, you're never going to get away from it. And you can spend a lot of your life force energy and a lot of your effort trying to mask and mimic a reality that isn't true. But if you put all that effort into actually accepting reality and accepting what's true and healing the lie that you internalized, then you'll be free. But you just shackled yourself. Like you're just shackled to this constant life sentence of trying to pretend you're something you're not, like, and convincing the world that you're something you're not, and just covering up the truth of what you are. And it's just like fucking exhausting. You're young now, so you have the energy to do it now, but like, fuck, it's not the answer and it doesn't solve a damn thing. Okay. No, I don't. I hate that the men are colonizing our sex. I hate the narcissists who, are so entitled and emboldened to practice their fetish with our sexed bodies and in our sexed spaces. I have a hatred towards those men for sure, but do I hate guest that I just talked to? Absolutely not. I see him as a victim. I see him as a kid. He's like my own kid. My kid is 16 years old. My kid is 3 years younger than him. Are you fucking kidding me? I don't hate kids. I don't hate kids caught up into a horrific ideology. I don't hate a kid who was in a group home and fucking was hated. Like he was taught that he can't be a feminine boy. Like, I don't hate him. Fuck no. That's very nice. Yeah, please keep yourself safe and please stay out of our female spaces. Very nicely said. It's all we can do, right? And you don't understand women's reality, but that's the thing we completely understand. Just to be clear, you believe trans women are men. Can be done. I believe he has trauma issues. Most people do. Trans people exist and it's still a delusion. No, they don't exist. It's just a behavior. The behavior exists, for sure, but it's not a type of person. Yeah, Marcy, sorry, that's his name. Oh, did we? Oh no, we did not achieve the live goal. Okay, gotta get going swimming. Groomer's telling me so. Oh, jammy. That's what I wanted to say. That so bad. Just like, the like maturity thing. Like that's a P3 talking point, right? Like, oh, some kids are just more mature, and it's fine that they go get castrated. It's like, no, 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 no. That's what groomers told him. Yeah. Okay, I'm going back. So gullible. No. Nope. Diddly-ope, dope, bobo, be dope. Oh, it wasn't who muted Martha. I just had a phone call from the hubsters. He's like, get going, because you need to go get dinner. Went silent. Sorry about that. If I scroll down, I can see a live called Samantha. He's scary. Yes. Those are the men I hate. I do not hate Marcy. Marcy is a victim of a really horrific cult. You'll have to die and be born again as women. Only cults mutilate children. Exactly. You can't. People are just born with certain sized hypothalamuses. My hypothalamus lady brain! See about multiple definitions because they're not definitive. Okay, well, fuck. I'm gonna get off here. Gonna go swim diddly dim. I'll say to everybody go to the fucking gym. You remember that guy? He spits out his coffee. He's like, go to the fucking gym. That's what I'm saying to you guys. Go to the fucking gym. Everybody who's listening to my live right now, go to the fucking gym. Because that's what I'm gonna do. And therefore you have to too. Do it. Go to the fucking gym. Yeah, see? Fine, I'll go. Get. Now. Yes, you do need to. Thank you for this live. Oh, thank you. You don't live near a gym? Well, then go and do some yoga on your floor. Do 5 sun salutations. Do some back bends. Do some stretching. Get your legs stretched out. Twist your spine, like do the thing where you slap your arms like on either side of you and twist and like turn your head. Go on YouTube and do a workout. Fucking right now. Everybody. You do already? Oh, well, then you're fine. But go now, because I am. I'm procrastinating because I love to read your comments. You're pumped up. You're going to go to the gym. Okay, me too. Ready?